Well, DC has finally moved on from its dark, brown, moody, dawn of migraines, slightly awkward phase and embraced its inner Marvel, which is amusing when you consider that Shazam was originally called Captain Marvel and then lost the rights to his own name over legal reasons that I have neither the time, inclination nor legal training to do so. What? Shazam? Wait, the actual film title actually has an exclamation point in it. You have got to be kidding me. What is it with this month's films and that hatred of my scripts not looking like my old English teacher has gone mad with power / the red pen? Interestingly, this isn't for the first time that Captain WoW has been unleashed upon the silver screen. Shazam was in fact the subject of Hollywood's first ever superhero film adaptation, Republic Pictures' Adventures of Captain Marvel, 1941, in, well, 1941. It doesn't seem to have made it across the pond for obvious reasons, but seems to have held up pretty well. Back to 2019, and Commander Abracadabra is beat for beat your bog standard superhero origin story with the patented Marvel formula, which has been focus tested and it works in all its tedious efficiency. I mean, don't get me wrong, it's nice for Mark Strong to be in a big budget superhero film that will enable him to leave the house for once. It's just a shame that the film has no idea what to do with him. I mean, he's clearly having a blast, and I'm sure the costume designer had a perfectly logical reason for dressing him like he was on loan from the Matrix, and I liked the joke that every time he did try and give his big supervillain speech, the camera cut away from him. I liked that a lot. I had more issues with the fact that Strong is meant to be allied with the physical incarnations of the 7 deadly sins. Just overlook the fact that they can't quite seem to remember whether or not they can talk in a really cool growling voice, or just snarl. Forget that. It's the least important thing when you consider the fact that the villains are the physical embodiment of the 7 deadly sins. Just imagine what you could do with that. Lust could be capable of changing into whoever the person fighting desires most. Gluttony, a disgusting blob that consumes anything it comes into contact with. Greed could have massive green eyes that could compel people to give in to their worst impulses. You could let your imagination run wild whilst staying within the limits of a softer 12A film. And instead, here we get just 7 snarly beasts which just blend together into one massive dull. They're really not that physically distinct from each other, or seem to have a different style of attack, instead just being snarly monsters on loan from Ghostbusters and Mortal Kombat. They don't even have different personalities, really. In any other film, they would have been the goons, but here they're supposed to be a threat big enough to
try to take over the world.
If it seems like I'm harping on about what in practice are pretty non-threatening villains, it's because I really liked the rest of the film. I liked the child actors. The plot was well constructed. Most of the jokes landed, and Billy Batson as a 14-year-old kid suddenly being given the powers of a god and an adult body reacts exactly as a 14-year-old kid suddenly being given the powers of a god and an adult body would. I would still have liked to see 10 minutes cut from the second act, but show me a modern film that doesn't get a little saggy in the middle. It did need slightly more DC product placement though. I counted 3 whole scenes with that product placement in, although that scene in the toy shop more than made up for it in my book. The action scenes were fun and I was mostly capable of following what was going on, and the subplot, which would have made an amazing indie film in its own right, almost brought a tear to my eye. It's great to see a film where the hero grows and changes in a believable way, where a person who could easily have come across as overpowered and unstoppable seems almost vulnerable at times, even if he does get some help that seems to come out of one of those slightly corny 80s kids movies. Speaking of which, I write down in my notes on the way home, Shazam equals big plus Superman. Start doing my research, feeling like I've got a real zinger in my back pocket, and that's how the advertising suits are describing it, which is sort of annoying. But there's no denying that this film has a great heart, a really good cast of all ages, a mostly funny script, some pretty good action, a villain who's having fun even if he doesn't really have a point, and actually some pretty solid special effects. It's almost as if having a smaller budget, roughly 80 to 100 million instead of the usual north of 200 million, causes the director to act in a less indulgent manner. Shazam is a really good, lightweight, fun film, which plot-wise seems like it should have come out around Christmas instead of at this time of year, where it's got roughly 3 weeks to reclaim its budget before being wiped out by Avengers Bland Game. If only they could have worked on their villains, I could see this being a 5-star film, but they didn't, so it isn't. I definitely think that you should see it though. But what do you guys think? And which slightly obscure superhero would you most like to see come to the big screen? Comment below, let me know. I'm Daniel, it's been a dunking. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, share and subscribe.